Ladies and gents, boys and girls, happy Thursday, March the 16th, 2023. Hope you're all doing well. Chris Phillips, your host of the Daily Crow of the Spurs Up Show. What is going on? I see Bruin Nation, Stephen Boyle Jr., Stephanie Lee, Xavier, what's up? Also, those in the Big Cock Club Discord, head over to the TDC Questions channel. The TDC Questions channel, be sure your questions are answered there. We are rocking here on this Thursday. A huge Thursday is, yes, Greg Bedinger in the BCC, Keith in the BCC. March Madness. It officially begins, arguably the best weekend of the calendar year for sports fans. As March Madness gets going, the first couple of rounds, basketball all day long on the tube. And my bracket is officially filled out. I have got the Purdue Boilermakers cutting down the nets in Houston. Would love to talk your bracket. We can talk all things college basketball if you like. Also, of course, South Carolina preparing to begin SEC play tomorrow in Athens, Georgia. Just got off our great conversation with Inside the Gamecocks. Appreciate those guys, JB, JC, and Phil, having me on the airwaves. And also, of course, we've got JC Sherbert joining the show at 1:15 today as we'll talk with him again, of course, all things Gamecocks. Again, guys, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Happy Thursday. Hope you're having a fantastic week and really, really excited to dive into everything today. Guys, of course, as always, TDC brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Go download the Prize Picks app, go to prizepicks.com, and when you do, use the promo code TSUS to receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Guys, anything and everything you can think of, they've got it over at Prize Picks. Be sure to check them out. College sports, pro sports, of course, everything March Madness as well. They've got all the games there. So I know right now you're playing spreads, you're playing totals, you're playing futures, but be sure you're also playing with our friends over at Prize Picks. So many fans and listeners of the Daily Crow have made tons of money with our friends at Prize Picks. So again, go download the app or go to prizepicks.com. And when you do, use that promo code TSUS to receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Be sure to check them out and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent you. Also, guys, hey, SEC baseball actually begins tonight as we got some great games taking place. Florida and Alabama, and also Texas A&M and LSU. Some fantastic ball games later tonight in the SEC slate. And then, of course, it all gets going tomorrow officially as everyone will be in action. They have not announced yet, guys, but it looks like the Gamecocks probably will not play tomorrow. It's looking more like a doubleheader on Saturday due to weather in Athens. Looks like it's going to be 100% chance of rain. We're also going to get rain here in Greenville. I guess Greenville to Athens is not that far away, but 100% chance of rain. So looking like it will probably be a Saturday doubleheader and then game 3 on Sunday. We shall see. There has not been an official announcement as of yet. Panic Ritter, what's going on, Panic Ritter? Panicking is normal. He says 2 things. Why are we losing so many basketball players? Again, also, Panic Ritter mode has hit for the ladies. These guys scare me in these upset games. I don't think you have much to be worried about, Panic Ritter. Why are guys leaving the basketball program? I mean, Panic Ritter, when guys aren't playing, they want to go play, right? They're not playing. So they want to go seek playing time. I can't really blame any of the dudes who have left. Either way, guys, phone lines are open. 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377. Also, guys, in case you missed it, the brand new merchandise that'll be sold exclusively on tour will drop today at 2:30 in a special release video. Very, very excited to make you guys aware. Hey, we are 1 week away exactly from the start of the TSUS Spring Tour at the various Carolina Ale House locations across the state of South Carolina. Absolutely thrilled to get that going. And with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the phone lines. Skyland, what's up, man? How are you?
What's up, bro? How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Appreciate you asking. What's going on?
I got Houston winning the bracket tournament.
Very nice. Love that. Love that. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, man. I did not fill out my bracket until like 10 minutes ago, right before the show started.
Here.
I jumped on Inside the Gamecocks, and they asked me who you got winning the national championship. I said, guys, admittedly, I don't know. I haven't even filled out a bracket yet. So I was like, you know what? I think I've put myself in a great position because when you actually try, that's when your bracket gets screwed up. So I've waited to the very last second. I just off the cuff, I know nothing about most of these teams, just picking randomly, picking random upsets. And that's what I'm going with. That's what I'm going with. So we'll see if it plays out again. I got Purdue winning it all. I have no idea. I could not name one player on Purdue's team, but I guarantee you I'll do just as good, if not better, with that mentality than I would if I really sat there and made picks and did all this research. So we shall see. We shall see, my friend.
I just hit the little information bubble that they had when you picked the games, and it told you just a little bit about both teams, how many points they score per game, and how many points they give up, and how many wins and losses they have versus the top 25.
Gotcha. No, yeah, that will help you do it. That'll help you do it, no doubt. So we will see.
I'm excited for this weekend for sure.
Yeah. No, I'm excited too, man. SEC play getting going. I'm really pumped to sort of start to find out what this team's all about.
It looks like from the stats I've seen, it looks like everything's pretty close with Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, they're hitting 337 as a club. They are tearing the cover off the baseball. I think where South Carolina is going to be able to expose Georgia is, I think your pitching depth is a major advantage in this one. Georgia going to feature great arms probably on Saturday in the doubleheader, but Jaden Woods and Liam Sullivan. Liam Sullivan, dude, 3-0 with a 0.44 ERA. He's been electric this year. But you look at that bullpen, and I think the deeper you can get in that pen, I think South Carolina will have the advantage, and I think they'll be able to hit the dogs around a bit, but it's all about getting in the bullpen, right? So it's going to – yeah, exactly. I mean, it's going to be a great weekend of baseball. I truly think so. And I got the Gamecocks taking 2 of 3, but I'm expecting a very hard-fought series against a Georgia team that, while they may not be great, I think will be a pesky ball club this year.
I agree. I'll tell you this. I go in every weekend, and I'm going to pick the Gamecocks 2 of 3. That should just be expectation.
Yeah, I mean, I think for South Carolina baseball, you should never go into a series expecting to lose in regards to, inside the building, what have you. But, I can't make any guarantees what I'll pick every single weekend. But, I mean, listen, you've put yourself in a great position, right? 17-1 overall record. You've put yourself in a position to where, heading into SEC play, we should feel good. We should feel confident. This team should be very, very confident, right, going into conference play. So I'm confident as well. I'm excited to get it going. Like I said, it's loved what we saw in the non-conference, right? I love seeing the guys pick on lesser opponents, but now we get to start learning about what this team is really all about against the best competition.
Right. I'm curious if I'm sure they're gonna stick Sanders Hall and Mahoney. I'm sure.
Yeah, they've already dropped it. It is Sanders Hall and Mahoney. Yeah. I just, again, like I told people, I think that they're going to give Will Sanders an opportunity to they're going to give him an opportunity in SEC play. I don't see any changes coming before 2-3 weeks in SEC play and going from there. So now I think they're going to continue. I think they believe in Will Sanders. How about Georgia, by the way? Just went over to Twitter. Georgia is actually TBA on Sunday. Nolan Crisp is his name, has been starting for them on Sundays, but he had like a 7.14 ERA. So Georgia is TBA on Sunday. So again, from the pitching side, the Gamecocks have the advantage. It's no doubt.
I'm really really ready to see how we fare versus teams that don't walk us a lot and we can't get home runs. Mm-hmm. Maybe we can, cluster some base hits, steal some bases, hit and runs, run some base. I'm just ready to see us play against better competition.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. I mean, because listen, in SEC play, you're going to have to grind out victories, right? You're going to have to grind out wins like tomorrow or, Saturday, whenever you play. There's going to come moments where you got to win a game 3-2. You got to win a game 4-3. And it's just, can you do it, right? You're going to have a runner on third with less than 2 outs. You're going to have situational hitting. South Carolina leads the country in home runs. That's great. That's awesome. But in SEC play, you want the long ball to continue. And I think it will continue. I don't think this lineup is I think this lineup has more staying power than that 2021 group did, who I think were much, much more feast or famine than this group is. So I think the home runs will continue, but it's all about the productivity when the home runs aren't happening. Can you still be productive, right? You're going to face elite arms who are going to keep you at bay. They're not going to necessarily let you leave the yard at the rate at which you've done so. Are you still able to find a way to win? That's what's going to determine your success in SEC play.
I agree. I'm excited to see. I really hate it for Kevin Madden to leave, but there might be a few more that starts rolling out.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I think it's interesting the timing, but I actually got to talk to Kevin Madden later yesterday, and he informed me that he has not quit the team. He is taking a medical red shirt, and if he is healthy enough to continue his baseball career, he's probably going to try to go elsewhere and do it. But the guy's had 4 surgeries in the last year. So I think the initial report that said like he was quitting or whatever is not, it's not accurate at all. And it has to do with injuries, and that's why he's doing it. So you hate it for him. I mean, he's just really going through the ringer when it comes to trying to stay healthy. So Skyline, you there, my man?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Gotcha.
Well, I hope everything works out for us, and most definitely excited to see the Gamecocks play this weekend.
Yeah.
I hope everybody enjoys some March Madness. And I'm sorry I got distracted. I was dealing with.
Oh, you're good. No, you're good. You're good.
Like I said, I hope the bats stay hot. We swing it, we'll be just fine every weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to see how we play on the road, because when we played at Clemson, we did not look too good. And stay hot, stay where you need to be, win 2 out of 3. And if you sweep, that's great. But I'm not asking for no sweep, because sweeping teams is hard. Mm-hmm. But just 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
2 out of 3.
For sure.
Anyway.
For sure.
Go Cox. Let's get a dub this weekend.
Let's do it, Scott. I'll talk more tomorrow, my friend, as well. I appreciate you.
All righty.
Yeah, man. Take care. Great stuff from Skyland. And it looks like our series graphic, by the way, just came through from my good friend, AUPPL. So hopefully my folks in the Big Cock Club Discord are ready to correct any errors that it might have. I know I don't know, for some reason there tend to be moments that we miss some things on the graphic. But either way, South Carolina taking on the Georgia Bulldogs at Foley Field. Really, really excited for this weekend as SEC play gets going. Guys, tip-off is happening in March Madness. West Virginia, Maryland upcoming in the next minute or so. How about Furman and Virginia at 12:40? That's a big one as well. Let's jump back to the phone lines.
From
Dalton.
Dalton, what's up, man? How are you?
Nothing much, man. I'm just, getting my first plays of the day in. Right now I got West Virginia money line, Virginia money line, the Virginia 2-teamer. I feel pretty good about it, that it's going to hit. So,
I love that.
One of the greatest times of the year.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. For sure. It is a great time of year. So who do you have as your national champion? I know you're more so worried about the gambling side of things, but who you got as your national champ?
My final 4 is Duke, Creighton, Houston, and Kansas.
Creighton?
And I have Houston winning it all.
Okay. Love
I
that.
have Houston winning it all.
Love that.
Yeah. I didn't pick Alabama just because I think they're too reliant on, one player. But, the bracket's probably going to be busted after today anyway. But
are the sports gods going to allow Alabama to win? That's the question.
I hope not. But we'll see. We'll see.
Goodness.
This brings up an interesting question, though. I mean, in your opinion, which do you believe is the better product? Mm-hmm. The men's college baseball tournament or the March Madness men's college basketball tournament?
I mean, there's nothing like March Madness. I'm really trying to take my bias out of it too. That I'm a baseball guy by default. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I know it sounds crazy, but I filled out a bracket, but I literally did it 20 minutes ago. But I think March Madness is awesome. But to be completely transparent, am I making it a point to go out of my way to watch any of the basketball games today? Not really. I mean, I'm not gambling on any of the games. The Gamecocks are not playing. So, you know what I mean? Like, I just, admittedly, I'm not as invested in March Madness as maybe I used to be, especially when I was gambling on sports, man. I mean, I would take off of work when I worked in the corporate world and sit there and watch the games all weekend and be put in action on different games and stuff like that. So, admittedly, I'm not as invested. And I've already said before, like, I'm not a huge basketball guy. I mean, I'll definitely watch some of the games. Don't get me wrong, because why wouldn't you? But I'm just as excited for SEC baseball to begin tonight. Like, I'll probably be watching those games, Bama, Florida, and A&M and LSU. Like, I'm just as excited to watch those as well. So I don't know.
Yeah,
but I have to take my bias out. I mean, there's nothing like March Madness, dude. There's nothing like it. I think the college baseball postseason's incredible. I love it. But I mean, dude, you're talking about March Madness games literally from noon to midnight. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to compete with that.
Yeah, the one thing about the college baseball postseason that I wish, the NCAA would try and market more, which I guess, now that they're having a new president, they may do it. But I feel like if it was more accessible to the mass public, then I feel like it would get more attention, because it is definitely an awesome product. I mean, the fact that there are just as many upsets, if not more upsets, in the college baseball postseason than in the, men's basketball postseason, it's certainly something to look forward to. And, seeing as the Gamecocks will probably be playing in that tournament and we're not playing in the one right now, then, that has me excited too. But, do you think Lamont Paris can get us back to March Madness, in a couple years?
That's
how many years
that's the question I posed, right, on social media this morning is with it all starting. How many years until Lamont Paris has the Gamecocks there? And it's tough to answer. I hope sooner rather than later. I'd love to selfishly cover South Carolina in March Madness. I mean, I would, even if you don't make a Final Four run, I would just love to have basketball. And I know we all would. We'd love to have basketball to talk about this time of year. It just feels like the same old thing over and over and over. Like I've got that Time Hop app, right, that shows you what you posted a year ago to the date 2, 3, 4, and it's so wild. I see some of the videos and tweets I was putting up 2, 3, 4 years ago about basketball, and I'm like, dude, I was saying the exact same thing, the exact same thing, and I'm just sick and tired of being sick and tired almost. You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
I hope it's sooner rather than later. I really do.
I understand that, like, basketball isn't necessarily a priority to donors. Like, I feel like the fan base cares probably much more about football. They're more willing to put money into NIL for football, and seeing as NIL is such a big part of recruiting, it's just, I want to be able to see South Carolina in the tournament, and I want to see us play meaningful games in February and March. But, it just seems like the landscape is even going to be tougher now to get that.
Right. Well, for sure. And I'd say this, I mean, we all saw in 2017 what having a great basketball product can do for your school. I mean, it helped the Gamecocks tremendously across the board. So, I hope we get there. I really do. It would be a lot of fun. I mean, I've always said this. I mean, is basketball the number one sport at South Carolina? Absolutely not. It's not, right? And it never will be. But Gamecock fans love their basketball. And Gamecock fans love their teams, period. But if South Carolina was putting a winning product on the floor, you would see CLA packed. You would see people talking about basketball more and being invested in basketball. I mean, dude, I would love to be doing live stream watch-alongs for basketball and tailgates for basketball and you know what I mean? Like, really being invested. But like this past season, it was just like, I'm not going to sit there and beat a dead horse and nobody really wants to hear about a team that's a 4-win conference team. Like, nobody does. You know what I mean? And you're not a bad fan for that. It's just nobody wants to discuss that. So, but that doesn't mean Gamecock fans don't love basketball and wouldn't support a winner. I mean, just look at what Dawn Staley's built. Look at what Dawn Staley. I bet you CLA's packed tomorrow. I bet you CLA's packed this weekend for them. So if you build it, they will come, right? So hopefully Lamont Paris, again, like I mentioned, sooner rather than later, will have us to that point.
And I mean, I would recommend you go listen to this interview, but Kerry Rich, one of the staffers for the basketball program, was on 107.5 doing an interview yesterday, and he said that Lamont Paris, he believes Lamont Paris can bring a winning product to South Carolina. He allows his players to do what they want to do. His style isn't as restrictive as, let's say, Frank Martin. That's what a lot of recruits have said to the media so far. And I mean, he certainly seemed to be an excellent recruiter at Wisconsin from what everybody says. So, in year one, this roster, he really didn't have a whole lot of time to get it put together. And I would say that towards the end of the year, they were playing a lot better, and they were at least, being somewhat competitive, although they didn't really, get any wins. But I certainly think if you give Lamont Paris, 1 or 2 more years, he can have us at least competing for a slot, in the tournament, either the NIT or in the NCAA tournament. But, to the whole would firing Frank or keeping him, would that have got us there this year? I certainly don't believe it would have. I mean, he got us there one time out of 10 years. Granted, that one time was, our most successful run in school history. But, I feel like you kind of had to have a change, even if you took a step backward from a program standpoint, in order to hopefully gain, longer term success in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, man. It's easy to look at, I guess, who left and, just the move that was made, and obviously how this season went, and, and say, well, we'd have been in this position if this would have happened. But you don't know. You don't know. It might have been the same old. You know what I mean? And there was a lot of evidence to back up that it would have been the same old, So it's, it worked out how it worked out. Now people have just got to give Lamont Paris a chance. Bottom line, you got to give him an opportunity.
Yeah, let the homie Lamont cook.
That's it.
The homie Lamont's cooking up some dubs next year. I feel it.
That's it. Let him cook. My friend.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you taking my call, and you have a good one.
Dalton, enjoy your day of college basketball, my friend. Enjoy the weekend as well.
All right, you too.
Yeah, man. Take care. Great stuff from our friend Dalton. And the games have gotten underway. West Virginia and Maryland have begun. West Virginia up on Maryland right now. I think it's 11-9. Is that correct? Something like that. Yeah. Apparently, Eric Stevenson looking pretty good thus far for the Mountaineers. So Birmingham, Alabama is hosting that game. Furman, Virginia play at 12:40. That one's obviously got a lot of local interest. And College of Charleston will be playing at 3:10 against San Diego State. Let's jump back to the phone lines here.
Call from
Will from Dirty Myrtle.
Will, what's up, man? How are you?
Good, man. Just wanted to give my 2 cents about the Lamont Paris thing. So, personal opinion, I wasn't a huge fan of the hire. I thought that we could have maybe got somebody with a bigger name, somebody a little more established. And I'm willing to give them a chance, but this was probably, I don't know statistics or anything, but I think that this was probably the worst year we've had since we've entered the SEC. And I could be wrong about that.
One of the worst for sure. One of the worst for sure.
Okay. One of the worst years ever. And the roster was definitely a reworked roster, but you had a 5-star talent guy, #1 player in next year's class that reclassified. And in college basketball, one player isn't like football. One player can make a huge difference. And he was a talent. I don't think he was quite, maybe as good of an isolated scorer as some people thought he was going to be, but he's a good talent all the same. My point is that I feel like that Frank Martin had to go. I was in the camp that it was time for him to go. It would have been too much of the same. But I don't think it makes me a bad fan to just say that I don't think we made the right hire. and maybe I'm wrong, and I hope I am, but I feel like if things don't progress quickly next year, where we're at least, you know, not a 500 team in the SEC, but close to a 500 team in the SEC, that you got to start looking quickly to get a replacement. Like, I don't feel like you need to be attached to this guy for multiple years if we're not getting to, you know, a certain point where we're at least competing to possibly get into the tournament. Because that still has to be the goal, even though we haven't had a history of that. Isn't that the goal for every Power 5 program, is to get to the point where you're competing to get into the tournament, where you're making tournaments every couple of years?
Yeah. I mean,
and it's like that should be our goal.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Mark Ryan's talked about it, that the Gamecock fans that have reached out to their show have said over the course of a decade, make the tournament more often than you miss it. So make it 6 or more times in a decade. Dude, I just say make the tournament 3 to 4 times a decade. That is, and I feel like those should be considered very realistic expectations. But, you know, I'll tell you this, Will, I don't listen. I think the jury's out. You know, I don't think you're a bad fan for saying that you question if Lamont Paris is the right hire or was the best possible hire. I mean, right now he's 11-21, 4-14 in conference play, and you kind of are what your record says you are. I don't know if people knew this, but, you know, 21 losses is the record for the most losses in a South Carolina men's basketball season. It's only been done one other time, and that was in Darren Horn's final year. So I believe that's the only other time. Frank Martin lost 20 games in his second year. So, you know, I mean, it was a historically bad year for Carolina. There's no other way to put it. Oh, also Eddie Fogler back in 98-99 lost 21 games. So they went 8-21 that year. A year after they went 23-8, 11-5.
Fogler had some good teams, though.
Yeah, he did. I mean, from 95 to 98, they were NIT third round. In 96, 97, of course, they were SEC champions, but then got knocked out in the first round, and then got knocked out in the first round again the next year. So
yeah, I think one time they lost to Richmond in the first round. It was like when they were like a 2-15, 2 versus a 15 or something.
Yeah, that was a painful.
Yeah. But I just want to get back to being able to enjoy basketball, man. And it's just like, it's just not, you can't, I'll kudos to anybody that's tuning in to watch that on a nightly basis. Because I checked out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think a lot of people checked out. I mean, and I just want to be interested, something to cheer about. There's nobody showing up to those games, man. And it's sad. You know, we got this big ass 18,000, probably $4,000 in there to watch.
For a living, and I low key checked out. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I hear you. Trust me. By the way, in 97, it was Coppin State, South Carolina lost to.
The next year, maybe
the 15,
it was a year after
the 15
that.
seed Coppin State beat you 78-65.
Wow.
So
yeah. So, and that team, man, I think BJ Mackey might have been a freshman then, but you had him, you had Watson. I mean, they were loaded with talent back then. But man, yeah, I mean, we got a lot of talent in state though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of good high school talent. So it's like we can get there. We just got to recruit our state. And I mean, look at the basketball program. That's got to give you some hope. I mean, obviously, if you build it, they will come. I mean, what are they average probably what, 14,000, 13,000 a night at the women's games?
Oh yeah,
I mean, a lot, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we'll show up if you're any good. You know that. So,
yeah.
But anyway.
Appreciate you, my friend. Take care. Yeah. Great stuff. Great stuff, Will from Dirty Myrtle. I mean, listen, you might disagree with Will, but you know, there's some fans that feel that way, man. There's just some fans that feel that way. Guys, let's go ahead and jump into an early break since we've got JC Sherbert at 1:15. He will probably roll basically till the end of the show. So we'll go ahead and jump into our first break. On the side, I want to continue to hear from you more of your questions, your comments, your calls, and more. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. All right, what's up, guys? We're back. Taking your questions, comments, calls. 843-790-3377. That is 843-790-3377 here on this Thursday, March the 16th, 2023. Again, guys, hope you're all doing well. Appreciate you all tuning in. Your love, your support. Got the pups in the studio, making sure they're not up to no good. They're just chilling back here. What you doing? What you doing? Anyways, guys, would love to hear from you all. March Madness is underway. It looks like Maryland is having trouble scoring the basketball. Also, guys, we've got our friends over at Prize Picks. Be sure to play there. The board is chock full. Should we play some action in the Furman game? Should we play some action in the Furman game? I wonder. Let's go ahead and jump back to the phone lines here.
Call from
Robbie Davis, Zaxby's Hall of Famer.
Robbie Davis, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Appreciate you asking. What's up?
Like I said the other day, right? If we can somehow, if the men's basketball team can somehow make it to where we're making the NIT like 4 or 3 times in a 10-year span, and then build off of that and somehow get the correct players at the right time and get to the dance, I do believe that Lamont Paris can do that. I really do. And he just needs some time, you know? I mean, it's a lot harder to build a winning program than people think.
Well, I mean, I think you have to believe he can do that, right? I don't think you would have hired him if you didn't believe he could do that. I mean, the entire reason Frank Martin was let go is because he did not do that, right? 1 tournament appearance in a decade. Is that good enough? We determined that it was not. So again, as March Madness begins today, we made it clear in that firing and in Lamont Paris's hiring that 1 tournament per decade was not good enough, and it should not be good enough. It should not be good enough.
It shouldn't be.
There's no reason why this program can't go to 3 to 4 NCAA tournaments per decade. And I understand that level of consistency has never happened before. But, I mean, you're asking for things, Shane Beamer. You're asking the football program to do things that have never happened before. And you sure as hell don't want to hear me tell you that, hey, Carolina's never going to win an SEC championship. Why? Because they've never done it. You don't want to hear me say that.
Right.
So why should we apply any different thought process to the basketball program? The men's side, of course.
Right.
Why should I have a different school of thinking? Just because it's never been done before doesn't mean it can't be done. Your past does not directly impact, or it doesn't directly determine your future. So I don't see any reason why South Carolina men's basketball can't make the NCAA tournament 3 to 4 times a decade. I mean, make the tournament. Be one of the best 64 or best 68, if you will, now that you've got those first 4 play-in games. Be one of the best 68. That feels reasonable. That feels doable for South Carolina.
Yeah. That is definitely doable for sure. Definitely. And he's got, like I said, also, he's just got to get guys that believe in what he's trying to build, right? If you can get guys that believe in if he can get some guys that believe in what he's trying to build and have them stay, I think we can see a change in men's basketball in the future.
I think so too, Robbie. I don't think there's any reason why not.
Because that's the trick to having a winning program in any sport, right? Getting guys to come their freshman year and stay possibly till their junior year. If you're lucky, stay till their senior year.
Yeah. Or if you're getting one and done's, or if you're getting one and done's teams full of guys like G.G. Jackson, and
right,
you know, but it's really intriguing, man, because Lamont Paris, you know, there's some folks that or there's a lot of folks I will say that really believe in him, think he's the guy. And then I got other folks, and I'm posing the question, how many more years before Lamont Paris makes his first tournament appearance? I got some people saying 1 year. 40% of folks who have voted have said 2 years. He could make it his third. And then I got some who are replying saying, where's the never option? Or never. He'll be fired after next year. So people are very split on Lamont Paris.
And there's people that wanted him fired after this year.
Well, those people are crazy, man. That's just crazy.
Those people are smoking some sort of crack I've never heard of, okay?
Yeah.
That's just absurd that you want a coach fired after 1 year. Absolutely absurd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
absurd. Whatever kind of drugs y'all have been smoking, stay off those drugs, okay? Because drugs ain't good for you.
Indeed, man. It'll be interesting to see what he can do in year 2. We definitely need a massive improvement, no doubt.
And for sure, I got us taking 2 out of 3 against Georgia this weekend, by the way.
That's a great pick.
I got us winning Friday and winning. And did you say we're probably going to have to do a doubleheader on Saturday?
I mean, it's 100% chance of rain all day in Athens tomorrow, so I would expect them to go ahead and make this a doubleheader Saturday. But I mean, whatever. Yeah, whatever. We're going to play 3 games this weekend.
Either way, but I got us taking care of business Friday and winning one of the games in the doubleheader. So I ain't got no scores yet. I'll give you the scores tomorrow. But I got us taking 2 out of 3 against Georgia.
Love that.
Because I don't think they have the arm to keep up with what we're dealing out there right now. So
indeed. No doubt, my friend. No doubt.
I'll see you in about 3 weeks. All right.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it, man. Looking forward to it. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Safe travels for the first one, and as always, leave the dumb shit to me. Go Gamecocks and go Lady Gamecocks, and to heck with them pussycats in the upstate. To heck with them. To heck with them.
I can tell you're fired up, Robbie. I love it. I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm ready, dude. I'm ready for tomorrow, dude.
Yes,
the
sir.
girls are going to kick some butt and chew some bubble gum. When they're all out of bubble gum, they're going to kick some more butt. That's what they're going to do. Okay? Because I do believe that Dawn Staley's going to have them ready to go. If she's got – scratch that. If she's got to get them ready for tomorrow, then something's not right. Because you're playing in the NCAA women's tournament and you've got a ginormous target on your back.
Hmm. Yeah, we'll be ready to go. I mean, we're 48 and a half point favorites, Robbie. I think we could play our C- game and get a dub.
That is true. We are favored by 48 and a half.
Yeah.
I feel bad for teams that like Norfolk State that got to play like us whenever we got Boston and Cardoso and all the other ones. All the other players, I'm like, golly, it's almost like it's not even fair. Like, I'm going to probably be watching that game tomorrow and be like, and probably feel a little bad because it's going to be an ass whooping. I wouldn't be shocked if we scored over 100.
Yeah, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly. I think we'll probably cover too. So.
Oh, for sure. But I'm going to go ahead and get off of here and fix me something for lunch. I wanted to go ahead and get my call in before I fix me some lunch.
I got you. Well, Robbie, I appreciate you, my friend. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. We'll leave the dumb shit to you.
Exactly. As always. Yep. All right, buddy.
All right, man. We'll talk soon. Great stuff from Robbie Davis, as always. We got a little – come in. I thought she wanted to be a guest. Maybe I'm wrong. Come here. Oh, maybe she does. Okay, here we go. We got the guest appearance from our mascot. We got the guest appearance from our mascot here. Do you want to say anything? Oh, my gosh. Do not lick the mic. No lick. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. She just wants to play. That's 843-790-3377 here on this Thursday. This is Olive, by the way, if anybody wants to know. We love Pups in the studio. Pups in the studio is our favorite. Pups in the studio is our favorite. Let's see. Into the textbooks as Eddie Fogler went 9-18 in year 1, 10-17 year 2, took the team to the tourney in years 5 and 6 with a 24 and 23-8 record plus SEC titles. So yes, things can get better. Yeah, I mean, for sure. Here, I'll let you know. For sure. I don't see why not. Into the textbook. Clem sucks, lost to Morehead State last night. You do love to see that. You really, truly do love to see that. No doubt. No doubt. How about this, guys? Let me get your thoughts on this. Apparently, an Auburn player said, Zep Jasper. He said, I'm actually cheering for Alabama. I want to see them win. I want to see them have success because they're another team from Alabama. So, would you cheer? What would you think if a Carolina player said that about Clem sucks in the tournament? I can't imagine Auburn folks are taking that too well. I cannot imagine they are taking too kindly to those comments. I cannot imagine. Knowing the Alabama-Auburn rivalry, I just cannot imagine they're taking those comments too well. I don't know. Anyways, guys, SEC play gets going this weekend. South Carolina taking on the Georgia Bulldogs in Athens. Right now, scheduled for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 6, 2, and 3. We shall see if Friday is affected because of weather. Let's jump to the phone lines here.
Call from
the marinara sticks.
to accept, press 1. To send a
Dale, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, I'm in line trying to get me some food, man. What's going on?
Dude, I'm just hanging out, man, chilling. What's up?
Good Lord. I'm coming to say, where do you find these callers, man? Where do you get them? Craigslist? I mean, come on. I mean,
dude, they just,
that
hey, listen,
first
they
lady
just
that
call
called-
in, man. They just call in.
that first lady that called in, I think her name was Skylar. Good God bless her, man. She sounds like she's had some issues and just sad on life. I mean, perk up. I mean, sound like she's in the hospital bed. I want to know what room she's in so I can send her flowers. You know, it's just like, good Lord. Then you got Darlington calling in, or Dalton. Play this picks, people. Don't follow Dalton. You tell he gets excited about, you know, getting his fortune cookie at the restaurant, and he thinks he's the only one that's got a piece of paper in it. Don't play this picks. Good Lord. Then you got the guy from Bertie Myrtle. What's that? What Beamer always says to the people?
Yeah. Find some joy.
What did Beamer say?
Find some joy.
Good Lord. Look, Lamont Torres, you know, I don't know Lamont from Vermont, but this is first year. Even I know that, and I'm in Tennessee. I mean, come on. I mean, find some joy. Oh, I got to calm down. People's looking at me in the line at Arby's.
You're at Arby's. Okay. You're at Arby's.
Yeah, I'm in line. It's like Noah's Ark. Everybody's lined up 2 by 2 for some reason in the whole parking lot trying to go around this thing. Mm. But then you got the Zach Sauce runner up, always blocking me. I've been sitting here for 10 minutes before I even got up the order, and it's like he knows you got a bell beeper on or something. About to call in. Here comes Robin. Save the day. Put us to sleep. Oh man, I don't know where you find these people. Is this some kind of holiday or something? But I know it's what they call March Madness, but good Lord.
Hey, listen, they find me, my friend. They find me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the show, but for this things like this, it just really puts stress on this old heart of mine. You know, when I've got enough heartache at the house, look.
You doing all right?
That's why I got
You doing all right, BDD? You gonna make it?
I hope so, man. I'm glad. What's his name? My guy who has that same last name as the ice cream flavor. Calling in later.
Oh, Sherbert. Sherbert. Yes.
Sherbert. Yeah, him. I'm glad he's calling in, man. At least he'll make sense and be coherent about what he's talking about. Good Lord. But I just don't let it by you, man. I think Rebecca's getting ready to call in sometime soon, man. She's finally warming back up to it. I just want to give you a heads up. We got some new minutes. You know, 15th was yesterday, so we paid what we need to pay, so we got some minutes. So I just want to let you know she ain't forgot about you. I think she peeked in the other day. So be ready for that. It's going to be eventful for you, I'm sure.
Oh, no doubt. It's always an eventful day, especially when you call in.
Oh, thank you, man. I'm just here for you, buddy. I mean, like I said, this friendship of ours blossomed into something beautiful. All this pollen in the air, I think it's between me and you, you know? Blooming.
Maybe so. Maybe so. Maybe so.
All right, buddy. I don't want to hold you up. It's just like, good Lord, these people. And find out what room Skylar's in so I can send her some flowers. Good Lord.
Oh, I will do. Enjoy your Arby's, BDD.
Right,
enjoy your Arby's.
Hey, as soon as I get up here, I swear to God, I don't know how many people's in here, but it must be one person. That's all I'm saying. All right, buddy. BDD out.
BDD out. Appreciate you, my man. What a call. What a call. Great stuff. BDD. I don't even know how to follow that up. I don't know how to follow that up. Anyways, 843-790-3377. Yeah, who wants to follow up that call? My goodness. Big Dick Dale. Appreciate you, my friend. Let's see. Anyways, guys. Jacob E says, making the tournament's not as easy as it seems. Clem Sucks won 23 games and finished top 5 in the conference. Didn't even make the tournament. We're going to have to win 20-plus games to even have a chance. Yeah, for sure. Austin Greer says, go Furman. I guess I could have the March Madness games on. It's 12-7. 12-7 Virginia right now. Whatever. We don't, I mean, whatever. Yeah, Clem Sucks had some really bad losses, those quad 4 and quad 3 losses. And of course, we had a lot to say in that. So we had a lot to say. Wow. So Mark Ryan has got College of Charleston and Furman both advancing, and Furman heading to the Sweet 16, losing to Alabama. How about it? Let's see. Anyways, guys, JC Sherbert will join us at 1:15. Of course, we'll talk a little bit of spring ball. We'll talk baseball, everything to do with the Gamecocks, a little bit of March Madness. By the way, guys, I don't know if you saw this. Details revealed an incident that led to 3 South Carolina football freshmen facing gun charges and suspensions. In case you missed this, this is coming from the Greenville News, greenvilleonline.com. It says records obtained by the Greenville News that 3 South Carolina football players who were suspended February the 3rd are facing charges related to the illegal possession of an AR-15 rifle. AR-15 rifle. Anthony Rose, a freshman safety who redshirted the 2022 season, was booked into Alvin S. Glendale Center in Columbia on February the 6th at 9:30 p.m., according to a booking report. A warrant for Rose's arrest issued February the 6th states that at approximately 7:18 p.m. on January 25th, university housing staff observed and photographed an AR-15 rifle in Rose's campus apartment at 650 Lincoln Street during a health and safety check. The weapon was reported to university police, who responded to Rose's apartment. The warrant states that as officers waited for Rose to answer the door, he threw the rifle out of a window and into a common area. It added 2 associates of Rose can be seen retrieving the rifle from the common area, and one is concealing it in his pants. The warrant states that the officers reviewed video footage that corroborates the incident. Rose was detained on 2 charges: contributing to the delinquency of a minor and carrying or displaying a firearm in a public building or adjacent area. A personal recognizance bond was set at $20,000, and Rose was released on bond February the 6th. Freshman Montague Rames and Cameron Upshaw, both early enrollees of the class of 2023, were all suspended. Rames was arrested and booked at 9:29 a.m. He was charged with obstructing justice and carrying weapons on school property. A warrant issued February the 3rd for Rames' arrest states that he retrieved an AR-15 from a courtyard after it was thrown from an apartment window, so he was the one that got the AR-15. It added Rames concealed the rifle in his pants and left the property in a minor co-defendant's car. Rames was released on personal bond, $10,000 for the 3rd. According to a booking report, Upshaw was charged with possessing a weapon on school grounds, obstructing justice. A petition filed in the 5th Judicial Circuit Family Court by USC PD officer Jacob Graff reiterated that an adult co-defendant hid the rifle in his pants. Both left the property in the car belonging to Upshaw. Petition states that Upshaw corroborated the story in a January 30th interview. Also states University Police executed a lawful search warrant on Upshaw's iPhone, which revealed text conversations regarding the incident referencing multiple firearms being stored at the 650 Lincoln property. Anyways, okay, so that's the details that have been released, and it's an unfortunate situation because they're probably all done. Anthony Rose for sure is donezo, and I just don't know if, again, Beamer has said multiple times, it is out of his hands. It is a university issue. It is not just a football team issue. It is a university issue. Let's see. So, anyways, you hate to hear it. Anthony Rose, Montague Rames, Cameron Upshaw, have they played? And some of them haven't even played yet. Say, have they played their last downs, or have they worn the garnet and black for the last time? We shall see. Brendan M., what's up, man? What's going on, Brendan? Appreciate you. What is going on? As we turn to 1 o'clock, our second hour, J.C. Sherbert will join us at 1:15. Let's see. J.C. Sherbert joining us at 1:15. I know the Upstate is very excited for Furman right now, who's taking on Virginia. It is 17-7. Virginia early over Furman. So let's see. Oh, bud. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. Again, really excited for this weekend. Gamecocks taking on the Georgia Bulldogs. I think it's really interesting. Georgia is TBA on Sunday. So this kind of reminds me truly of the Clem Suck series, in which you felt like, I think Georgia's a much better ball club. They're certainly much better swinging it, hitting 337 right now. But pitching depth, I think, is probably where you have the greatest advantage this weekend. Both these teams have been red hot offensively. Both these teams have fantastic frontline starters. Look at Georgia, Jaden Woods and Liam Sullivan, who will pitch in game 2, who I think is probably their best arm. He's 3-0 with a 0.44 ERA, but still you feel really good about the advantage you have on the mound. And I think it's pivotal. I think it's critical for South Carolina offensively to continue showing that patience that they've shown all year, because I think if you can get into that Dogs bullpen, and I think the deeper you get into their pitching staff, the more the matchup swings in your favor, if you will. And I think you'll be able to expose Georgia's lack of depth, especially in that bullpen. So being patient, continuing with the approach that Monty Lee has instilled. I think if you do that, I'm not exactly sure the power numbers are going to be there this weekend. I don't know that you're going to hit double-digit home runs or how many exactly you're going to add to your nation-leading total, if you will. But I think you'll be able to have a lot of success swinging the stick if you are patient and, again, get deeper into that pen and knock those starters out as quickly as possible. So patience. Patience is the key word for the Gamecocks' offensive attack this weekend. Really excited, though. Really, really excited. I mean, Jaden Woods and Liam Sullivan are two of the best in the SEC. Watching them go up against Will Sanders and Noah Hall is going to be a lot of fun for sure. Going to be a lot of fun for sure. Guys, the women's basketball team gets going tomorrow. Surprise, surprise, I'm picking South Carolina to win it all. Picking the Gamecocks to win it all, no doubt. Anyways, guys, let's see. 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377 here on this Thursday. How many of you guys are watching March Madness right now? Anybody? Anybody got the games on? Does anybody have the games on right now? I've actually got it on another screen here. 28-26. Let's see. This might need to refresh this. Nope, this is right. 28-26, West Virginia over Maryland right now. Virginia up on Furman, 17-7. Got Utah State and Mizzou coming up at 1:40. Kansas Howard at 2 o'clock. Bama A&M Corpus Christi at 2:45. Local interest, College of Charleston, San Diego State at 3:10. So lots of games today, man, going all the way to midnight, basically. It is going to be an electric day of basketball. Jacob E. says South Carolina needs to take a page out of Bama's playbook and let the kids play. I don't know, man. I think the fact, Jacob, that it happened on campus is where it just gets really, really tough. I think that's where it gets pretty tough. Let's see. Let's see. Trying to see what D1 Baseball's got to say about this week. And I'm sure tomorrow they'll drop all their picks and stuff like that. I figured they would have it today, though. Anyways, we'll see. We'll see. I'm sure they'll have something later. They actually had Michael Lanana of The State on their podcast to talk South Carolina baseball. So I guess my number got lost. I don't know. I guess they lost my number. Let's see. Jacob E., I see Rose being gone. I think it's too much to kick the other guys off. We just, Jacob, we don't know right now. We don't know. It's all pure speculation. It's all pure guesswork. I'm not 100% sure, obviously, what's going to happen. But, Austin Greer says they're going to ball out in JUCO. Yeah. Seriously, they will, because they're still talented players. They're still very talented players, right? Yeah, they're still very, very talented players. Hayden Hurst is back in the Carolinas. How about that? Hayden Hurst back in the Carolinas. Hayden Hurst has a majestic beard, folks. I literally just tweeted it as well. But his beard is wild. His beard is like... Anyway. From one bearded man to another, Hayden Hurst has a phenomenal beard. David says, how big of a loss will it be? What if those three guys don't return? I mean, it'll suck, but I think South Carolina will be fine. I think the Gamecocks will be fine. By the way, guys, really excited at 2:30, we are dropping our brand new merchandise that will be available to all of our tour stops beginning next Thursday. The only way to purchase these will be in person at all of the Carolina Ale House locations at all of our tour stops. So again, really excited. Going to be t-shirts. We're going to feature brand new Beamer Ball to the Moon 2023 tour shirts, if you will. So you will see at 2:30 when we drop them. Really, really big time stuff. Really exciting stuff. I cannot wait to get going on the tour and to provide this merchandise as I think a value add to those who are willing to come out and show love and show support. I think it's going to be really, really cool. Guys, that being said, hey, let's go ahead and jump into a break. On the other side, we're getting J.C. Sherbert of Inside the Gamecocks. The Big Spur, really excited to chat with him. That plus your questions, comments, and calls. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. All right, guys, we're back. Taking your questions, comments, calls. 843-790-3377. That is 843-790-3377 here on this Thursday. Just a couple minutes away, we'll have J.C. Sherbert join the show. Excited to get JC's thoughts and everything else going on with Gamecocks athletics. Of course, March Madness getting underway. Really excited. Always a pleasure to chat with him and talk ball. Also want to say thank you to JC and company for having me on Inside the Gamecocks this morning. I always enjoy my conversations there and making an appearance on Inside the Gamecocks. How about Dens are on a 7-0 run? Furman on a 7-0 run to pull within 2 of Virginia. 19-17 that score right now, I believe. Let's check it. 19-17. 21-18 now, Virginia up. Maryland up on West Virginia at halftime, 32-30. I believe Dalton has got the Mountaineers money line. So hopefully Eric Stevenson can get the boys going in that second half. So I think Dalton needs them. Anyways, let's see. '76 Gamecock just saw the Dawn Staley Gamecock women's basketball led Under Armour commercial. Pretty cool. Yeah, that's awesome. That's incredible, man. I mean, it's what Dawn Staley's done to turn not just Gamecocks women's basketball, but herself and to be sort of an icon, right? Like a national figure. It's really cool. It's really, really cool. And obviously it helps South Carolina tremendously, but it's just a neat thing to see. So anyways, that's really neat. I also saw that commercial. So let's see. I was asked about from the Big Cock Club Discord. Chase asked me your thoughts on Scotty Scheffler's Masters dinner menu. He's got cheeseburger sliders, firecracker shrimp, tortilla soup, Texas ribeye steak or blackened redfish, and warm chocolate chip skillet cookie. Sounds delicious to me, especially that Texas ribeye steak. That sounds very typical of Scotty Scheffler, who is from the state of Texas. But that is the Masters Club dinner that will be served on Scotty Scheffler's behalf. So you love to see that. Really, really cool stuff. Dude, I can't wait for Masters Week. I'm obviously a golf guy, as you all know, and Masters Week is like it's the pinnacle, man. I mean, it's the pinnacle. I know Phil, our guy Phil, old rugby Phil, he loves golf, loves Masters Week. No, Phil would always give me crap, though, because he's not a golf guy, and I'll just sit there and I'll be rocking the Masters. I'm excited, man. April's going to be a really, really fun month for us, and we're going to be all over the place. So I know, as always, you guys, you'll rock and roll with the punches and be patient with us because I will be on the road a lot. There will be a lot of shows not done in studio. I can tell you I'm taking a family beach trip. I'm going to Hilton Head, going on a cruise. We'll kind of be all over the place in the month of April while also doing the tour, while also covering SEC baseball. Going to be a lot of fun. The month of April is going to be a blast. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. Like I said, it's 1:15, and every Thursday he joins us. J.C. Sherbert of Inside the Gamecocks of the Big Spur joins us live. J.C., what's going on, my friend? How are you?
Hey, great to be with you today, Chris. Just wrapped up. We went overtime a little bit on the show today. We had Patrick Davis on, and I kind of felt like I was hosting Rockline there for a while, and it's kind of refreshing sometimes to get a different subject, start talking music a little bit. But of course, we talked about the Gamecocks as well. He's a big Gamecock fan, obviously. But great interview, and he's got a concert coming up in Charleston and one in Camden coming up too. So be sure to check that out, folks out there that like Patrick Davis.
Yeah, PD's a legend, man. I've actually got a signed record of his in the studio, and we had him on the podcast a couple of years ago. So great Gamecock, great musician, and a great person all around. JC, let's go ahead and get into it. We'll start with this. Is obviously this today begins one of the most electric weekends in sports. Some would argue it's the best weekend in the calendar year in sports. The NCAA tournament, March Madness getting going. We're looking at some of the games right now. West Virginia, Maryland. Furman playing Virginia tough. But it brings me to this question, and JC, I posed this morning for South Carolina. How long, right? I think that's all the question we have. How long before the Gamecocks are dancing yet again? It feels like it's been a very long 6 years or so, if you can believe it's been that long since South Carolina made that historic run in the Final Four. And, I think it's realistic to believe that the Gamecocks can appear in the NCAA tournament over the course of a decade 3 to 4 times. I think that's realistic expectations. A lot of folks say make it more time than you miss it. But when you view the Gamecocks basketball program, do those expectations feel realistic to you? Because to those who balk at it, I say, well, we're asking Shane Beamer in South Carolina football to do things that have never been done. So why is it unfair to ask men's basketball the same? Your overall thoughts on that, and how soon do you think we'll be seeing the Gamecocks back in March Madness?
Well, I think there's, for guys like me, and I'm a little older, I'm 46. When I grew up, I was born in '76, 2 years removed from the Gamecocks' last tournament appearance before '89. So I was like, 13? So it was a 13-year gap there. But I want, the folks my parents' age kind of went to college during the time where they were a national power, during the McGuire era. The Gamecocks, of course, were in the ACC. Really, shoot, if it hadn't been for the way the rules were set up back in 1970, where if you didn't win the conference tournament, you didn't go to the NCAA tournament, which I think was probably pretty dumb back then. But they lost in the finals of the ACC tournament. They had gone 14-0 in the league. They were ranked number 1 in the country. That team probably in the format now would have gone to the Final Four and played UCLA. And I think Lou Alcindor and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was on the team at that point. But that was when UCLA was, number 1, winning all those championships. And so there's always been the belief that South Carolina should be good at men's basketball. The problem was when they left the ACC, they kind of went through the wilderness for a while. It's hard in basketball when you're an independent, no automatic burst. They got in the Metro, and, that wasn't exactly – although there were some really good basketball programs, Cincinnati, Louisville, Memphis, Florida State, Virginia Tech. I mean, teams that are good now wasn't the strongest. So when they got in the SEC, Chris, it was 1992. Disappointment first couple of years. Eddie Fogler gets there and he starts building the program.
Yeah.
Well, the Gamecocks are 5 years into the new league and they win it. And then the next year they went 23. And then back to back. Now they lost as a 2 seed and a 3 seed. So that stunk. But the consensus was there, okay, this can happen at South Carolina. That's why they built the Colonial Life Arena, because I think everybody involved at that point was like, Carolina basketball is back, because they're only like, 20 years removed, 18 years removed when Fogler took the job from being really good. Well, the bottom falls out. Recruiting changes in that sport from high school, just like football is, to AAU. It's all AAU. Fogler wanted no part of it. He got the team back to 500. Dave Odom comes in. Dave Odom's kind of a find it and plug and play guy. Odom could never figure out the SEC. That's why you had 2 NIT championships and a 3rd runner-up, because he would win in the non-conference. They go play Kansas and lose by 1 at Allen Fieldhouse or whip NC State or whoever. Couldn't figure out how to beat Auburn. Auburn wasn't very good then. Couldn't figure out how to beat Mississippi State, So that happened. Odom was probably there a couple years too long. And this is when it really starts to get bad, because you have this big arena. You can't, people are starting not to come. Horn's first year was an anomaly. That team won 21 games with Devin Downey, Sam Frederick, what have you. Won the SEC East. There were still divisions. I think that was the last year of divisions. So South Carolina's actually the last SEC East winner. Strength of schedule kept him out of the tournament. Horn nosedive. Okay, so at the same time this is happening, right? Dawn Staley starts to ascend, right? And then football is in its prime, winning 11 games a year under Spurrier, winning the SEC East. Baseball's winning national championships. So where's men's basketball? Well, Frank Martin's got a bunch of guys that, the gang that couldn't shoot straight. He's eking out 14 wins, right? But Frank got it going, and Frank reached his apex with the Final Four. Unfortunately, the year before, I think they got screwed. But I think looking back, I'll trade that for the final. I'll trade that Final Four run for getting screwed the year before. And so then the expectation was, okay, Carolina basketball is going to be back. The problem was, by the time the Final Four happened, you had a whole generation of Gamecock, like a whole 10-year stretch where other sports on campus were rolling, and men's basketball was awful, and you got these 9:00 tip-offs. I mean, nobody cared. I mean, and so all these alums that graduated from Carolina between 07 And 2015, they're like, oh, well, that, when I was there, they weren't that good. So the magic kind of came back 1 month in 2017 and then went away. And so it's become a harder and harder job as time has gone on. Now, is it realistic? I think it is. It's just never happened. I think that a lot of things that Frank Martin did were really good. Frank was the only coach that's figured out how to win in the SEC. He'd go finish 4th in the SEC and not make the tournament because he's 500, right? And things like that. Maybe Lamont Paris is the answer. Maybe Lamont Paris isn't. He's got to get players in there, which is a whole different set of problems. But I do think that whether or not Paris works out, there still is that notion there, Chris, that okay, this program, it was a different era of basketball in the 70s and late 60s. However, they were once a national power. And there is a team in school history that went to the Final Four, which is probably the greatest. Well, it is. It's the greatest accomplishment for a team in a revenue sport. There's only 2 revenue sports, obviously, but in football or men's basketball, football would have been the SEC championship game berth. So going to the Final Four was huge, and so I do think there's still, the smolderings or the ruins, I guess, of a once great program. Now, will Rome rise again? I don't know. I mean, it did. If you look back through history, Rome rebuilt, in different forms and stuff like that. But I kind of, the ruins of this program, so to speak, are starting to get older, because like a lot of the folks that were alive during the McGuire era are dying off. Hardly anybody remembers the ACC era anymore. South Carolina's been the SEC for 31 years. They were only in the ACC for 19. It's tough to get in-state talent to stay at home. So how do you make that happen? I wish I had the answer other than, hey, you got a coach now, try this guy, and if it doesn't work, rinse, repeat the cycle. But to your original point, is it realistic? Yeah, I do. I think South Carolina fans will rally around men's basketball. I mean, you think about it, and there's always a chance in the SEC too, Chris. It's like you're not dealing with like these ultra blue blood programs. You're dealing with upstarts. Alabama, Auburn was god awful. Auburn basketball. Since Charles Barkley left, they had the 1 year under Cliff Ellis that was really good. They've gone through the wilderness. Well, look, they got the right guy. They built a new arena. They're good bat. I mean, how many NCAAs have they been 2 in a row, including a Final Four? So look at Alabama. Alabama basketball has always been pretty good. And I was talking to Wimp Sanderson of all people today, because I do his radio show on Thursdays, just like Thursdays are my big radio day, I guess. And he was talking he had Latrell Sprewell, Robert Horry, never made a Final Four. Well, now look, Alabama is now, people are thinking they're the favorite to win it all. So it's cyclical in a lot of ways. I mean, Florida is not what Florida used to be under Billy Donovan anymore. Mississippi State has had great teams. They've been to a Final Four. Well, now they're back down. So there's always that opportunity in the Southeastern Conference. It's just putting it all together. And unfortunately, there's been so many things that have been tried now that you don't really know what that answer is. You don't really know, because, Frank Martin, before he got to South Carolina, 4 out of 5 NCAA tournaments at Kansas State. I mean, you think that was a layup. And yes, he did lead the team to the Final Four, but he was here 10 years and went to 1 tournament, and won more SEC games by far than any other coach. So it's getting to be, as time goes on and the mediocrity continues, it's getting to be a tougher and tougher nut to crack. Whereas, baseball and football, you wouldn't think that about football. People say South Carolina's a great job in football, but a hard job. But baseball and football, you still have that. Okay, well, we're one or 2 steps away, from getting back there. I think basketball's more like 4 or 5, and unfortunately, too, it's a sport now where you want to talk about roster turnover. You're turning it over every single year. So I don't have a lot of answers concrete for that. Opinion wise, other than Captain Obvious stuff like, oh, recruit better, win games, but I don't know how you get there. because the program right now is just like I said, it's like smoldering ruins of a once great program, and the further we get from that, and that era, the blips of hope we've had the last 30 years or so, the further we get from those, the more people just are going to tune it out, because it's a great sport and people will support it, but unfortunately, the other three major sports on campus, and I include women's basketball, that's just totally overshadow it right now. Because hey, everybody loves a winner. And those other programs are winning.
Yeah. And I've always said too, JC, that I think Gamecock fans, I know Gamecock fans love their basketball, but like you mentioned, it's just and whatever. It was year one, year zero, quote unquote, of Lamont Paris. It's tough to tune into a product that was as poor at times as that team was. And now you've got to build this team, I think, probably through the portal, JC. I mean, you look at all the guys entering the transfer portal, and you lose two this week at the portal that haven't played a ton. You've got some key pieces, and I know we got plenty of time to look to next year and everything, but you do have some solid pieces coming back, but you need to bolster that roster with a couple more through the portal. And we'll see if Lamont Paris can do that. So
and the Gamecocks lost another one just now. I don't know if you saw it before we got on. Daniel Hankins Sanford, who was a Frank recruit.
Okay.
He it just popped up right when I was jumping on with you. I've got my Twitter deck open, so I saw that. So there's another one. So that's 3 scholarship guys on a walk-on that have departed through the transfer portal so far. So yeah, I think that's how you got to get it done. And who knows? I mean, maybe look, Texas Tech went to the final game of the season a few years ago under Chris Beard, and they put it together with a lot of guys from like the lower levels and stuff. So maybe that's a way to do it. I just it's just one of those things where they've tried so many different things, and we're in such a new era that it's hard to pinpoint one thing. But I think you're right about the portal, definitely.
Yeah, the portal giveth and the portal taketh for sure. Hopefully it gives to South Carolina more than it takes in this cycle. Let's move into SEC baseball, JC. Obviously, we're all fired up. The Gamecocks, after a really, really successful non-conference start, and certainly you still have your midweek games and non-conference. After this first start of the season, 17-1 you sit right now. I don't really know. You could have asked for much better, obviously, of a start. You take on the Georgia Bulldogs in a series this weekend. It looks like it'll probably be moved to a doubleheader Saturday, game on Sunday. Nothing official yet, but due to weather in Athens, that'll most likely be the layout. But either way, Gamecocks taking on Georgia, just things you're looking for from this weekend. Obviously, the Dogs are not a team that is necessarily thought of as one of the upper echelon teams in the conference. They were not even picked to be a regional team by D1Baseball.com in the preseason. But as we've seen, last year, JC, and I mentioned this on you guys' show, if you want a great example of this, just look at South Carolina last year, where the Gamecocks were not very good. They were a 13-17 SEC team. Heck, you can look at Ole Miss too, right? They went 14-16 in the conference and won the national championship. So the depth of this league is so insane. I mean, it really holds true, right? We talk about all the time in football. There are no Saturdays off, right? Anybody can beat anybody. But that's really true in baseball, right? Where the variables there's so many different results and outcomes, so many different things can happen. And every single weekend is a major test. That'll certainly be the case this weekend at Foley Field in Athens. Again, just what you're most looking for from this 3-game set as you get SEC play going.
Well, I'd like to see Will Sanders and Noah Hall. And look, I don't think either one's been bad this year. I think they both are pretty daggum good. But I'd like to see them come out and have really quality starts. This Georgia team could hit the baseball a little bit. We earlier on the show while you were on, we went through the schedule, and they put up 16 against Georgia Tech and the 10 against Wofford this week. They can hit the baseball, and they've got a really, really good couple of starters that they'll probably roll out Saturday. Because I do agree with you. In talking to John Whittle yesterday, he said he'd be shocked if they played tomorrow just because of the forecast, 90% rain all day. So probably Saturday they'll roll those guys. So I'd like to see them get out and get off to a great start in conference play. I know the bullpen's there in case they need that, but also continue to kind of have the good approach at the plate. I think this year's team's different than maybe that 2021 team. And I think you maybe mentioned this earlier too, where it was like Wes Clark just hitting bombs, or Seidler or whoever, bomb, and if they didn't knock it over the fence, it's going to get iffy. This team's got some more I guess, double and triple hitters and guys that can get RBIs. That sure, they hit a lot of home runs, don't get me wrong. But I don't think they're as reliant on the long ball through 18 games as maybe that team a couple of years ago was. Because you run into a regional situation and you're not hitting it over the fence, which you're not going to all the time. And we saw what happened. Gamecocks, as well as they pitched in some of those games, they couldn't win because they couldn't score. I think this year's team has a little bit better approach. So I want to see that. I want to see some selective hits. I want to see the guys at the plate not swing at bad pitches. JB pointed something out earlier on the show too. 7 for 69 leadoff spot. I don't know. My guess is it's probably going to end up being Dylan Brewer when all is said and done. I think that's kind of why they recruited him to maybe be a leadoff guy, but they need to get more production there, obviously. But, I think that's the two things. I want the Noah and Wes to have, to really get out there and get after it because, we need to see that, I think. And then the bats behind them, need to continue to have that good, mindful approach. And if they do that and they win twice Saturday, then Sunday you got Mahoney and Hicks and all those other guys, and Jerzenbeck and everybody, then you're probably looking at a sweep. So I think that's probably the key to the doubleheader Saturday, assuming that's what happens. I'm not trying to be the weatherman or anything, but I'd be surprised if they played tomorrow.
Yeah, and JC, I'm not sure if you saw, Georgia is actually TBA for Sunday. So, we were talking about their pitching depth or lack thereof, and so, the Gamecocks, you think they've got the upper hand in that Sunday game with the Dogs not even knowing who they're throwing. So I think for sure the opportunity to win 2 of 3 at minimum is there. And I mean, my goodness, if you can sweep, I think that would be, even though Georgia's not one of those upper echelon teams, if you could go on the road and sweep, I think that would be a very, very loud start to SEC play and sort of make a statement to the rest of the SEC that, hey, what we've done to this point, it's not just, we're picking on lesser competition. We are for real. And we are one of those teams that should be being talked about as one of the, maybe one of those top 10 SEC teams, one of those teams you find in the top 10 rankings, if you will. JC, moving to the go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, no, I was just going to make one more point. Even though Missouri in baseball sometimes beats Carolina and you're like, why, how, what, when, you do have Missouri the next week. So 3-0 could legitimately become 5-1 or 6-0 pretty quickly with a mammoth series against, I think LSU's next after that.
So
right?
it's actually Mississippi State
at
Starkville.
At Starkville,
the LSU series. Then
LSU. Okay,
so
my bad on that.
You've got about as favorable a start to conference play if you could ask for, because Mississippi State, for whatever reason, I mean, going to Starkville will be tough, but they're not the Mississippi State that won the national championship. They're just not that team.
Not even close.
I mean, you couldn't have really asked for a much better start. And I mean, JC, to your point, if you can take care of business, even if you just win 2 or 3 against Georgia or whatever, you got Mizzou in your home field, a very gettable Mississippi State team, you could be looking at a top 10 matchup between Carolina and LSU at Founders Park in a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series, which would be absolutely electric. JC, moving to the football side of things, I want to get your takes or thoughts on this, if you will. And we talked about this earlier in the week, but of course, spring practice getting underway on Tuesday. And we've talked a lot about the running back position and the depth or lack thereof and just sort of what they're working through this spring, what they need to do moving forward. DeCarrion Joyner getting reps at the running back position. Of course, that was going to cause some conversation. Your just overall thoughts on that, and where do you kind of see, how do you see Dak Joyner's role evolving going into this year? I feel like, JC, this is always sort of a talking point because I feel like his role is still kind of, it's kind of all over the place. Is he going to get most of his snaps at quarterback, at receiver? Now they're trying him out at running back. The bottom line is this, though, JC, when he's on the field and touches the football, as we saw last season, he tends to make plays more often than not. Normally, good things happen. Your just overall thoughts on them giving him a look there and how you think his role will continue to evolve going into this season.
Yeah, and you got to give him a shot too, like what they did against Georgia, which was awful. Where you just throw him in there and have him run up the middle on 3rd and 7. That's
that was Satterfield at its finest right there.
God almighty. I was like that. I was sitting there going, I think I said that week, that's the one thing I don't want to see in this game. And sure enough, you're moving the ball and then boom. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
But no, when he gets out there and he can throw it, run around a little bit, yeah, he gets in the flow of things. He's a weapon for sure. And I really liked how they used him down the stretch towards the end of the year, the bowl game included. But you know, I got to give John Whittle some credit because I think it was in 2020 when Marshawn Lloyd got hurt. Yeah, when Marshawn went out, you know, we didn't know. Nobody knew how good Kevin Harris was going to be that year. You know, they didn't even know if he'd be healthy. And then you had Fenwick, who had struggled. Well, Fenwick and Harris had pretty good seasons. You know, that even though they were 2-8, right? John Whittle in preseason was like, I'd move to Kerryon Joyner to running back. And I'm like, yeah, you know, well, he's about 6 feet tall. He's about 210 pounds. Yeah. Because he's a big kid. You know, he's 6'1", 216. Yeah. To me, it just depends on how natural he looks, because the problem receiver with him has been, and he's not a bad receiver. He's sort of average, you know, receiver, I think. The problem at receiver with him has been that, you know, it's a new position and he doesn't always doesn't look that natural at the position. You put him back there at quarterback, Chris, he just does some things instinctively that you go, good God. You know, I mean, you know, keeps his eyes downfield. You know what? All right, so that's quarterback. So how does that translate to playing running back? And that would be my question. Will he be more natural than he maybe was when he moved to receiver and tried to learn that one? Because I do think he has good vision. I think he's got good elusiveness. I think he's got excellent feet. Those are all things you look for in a running back. But then on the other side of it, will he run too high? You can't run high running back. You know, is that going to open him up for turnovers because people are sticking the ball? You know, is there a difference with what he does naturally? You know, when he's dropping back and he's kind of got, you know, I can run, I can throw, I'm eluding, you know, I'm getting away from pass rushers versus guys in the open field like a linebacker and all that. Can he pass protect? You know, those are all questions that I would have. On the surface, I think it's a great idea, because if anybody deserves to play just because of the impact they've made on the program on and off the field and stuck with it, when most guys in his position these days would have said, I'm going to go play quarterback at, you know, name your school, Marshall, East Carolina, wherever. Heck, he could probably go to Auburn right now and play quarterback because they don't really have one, right? And I think he'd be probably pretty good at Auburn and Hugh Freeze's offense. But he could have left. Yeah, he could have left. The offensive coordinator that recruited him was out before he even got here. You know, but he stuck with it. He does well in the NIL space. He's a leader. He's a father. He epitomizes what I think Shane Beamer, you know, wants to build with this program culturally. And so, yeah, if they can find a spot for him and he can help the team there, and he ends up we all go, wow, sort of wish he'd have moved to running back a long time ago. Yeah, great. But those are all questions I think they have to figure out with regards to will this work or not. But I do want to give Whittle credit, because he said it at the time, and I sort of agreed with him. I was like, yeah, maybe they'll do that, but it never happened. So now here we are 3 years later, and here goes the Kerryon at running back. So I'm excited to see it, you know, in the spring game. Hopefully he sticks there. If not, if he doesn't, Chris, we just know that it didn't really work out in practice. He's going to play receiver and Wildcat quarterback or whatever. So.
Yeah, JC, I think at minimum it's a great time to experiment with it. I mean, why not? That's kind of what spring is for. And that leads me into asking you this. Again, you've covered a lot of spring practices for South Carolina, and I'm sure – and you can tell me, I mean, do you feel like spring practices are ever really eventful? I mean, is there a spring that you can remember where, like, a bunch of storylines are like, you know what I mean? Like, is there a spring you can recall where that was happening, or is it typically just kind of normal? It's business as usual, kind of just go based off of what coaches are saying. Did you ever have like a really memorable spring covering the Gamecocks?
Yeah, well, yeah. When I was in Columbia and gosh, when was it? 08.
They used to, by the way, they used to have open practices too, because it used to.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
It used to be a totally different dynamic. Who can forget the Spartacus practice reports on Cocky Talk? Who can forget that?
Unbelievable stuff. And Spartacus was spot on too with a lot of that stuff, because I was there.
Yeah.
I tried to figure out who he was. I didn't even know. I was like, hey, who is this guy? Where is he? You know,
Legend.
but
legend.
you know, I guess it was 08. I was there from I guess 07 to 2010, right back in Columbia. 2011 too, for spring and preseason. And they were open, and we had to be there. You know, and it drug, especially you know in fall where you're like 2 weeks before the game, and it's like I can't watch this anymore. But and then the 2015 spring practice, I'll never forget because Deke Adams and Whammy were coaching D line, and I was used to watching, you know, Brad Lawing coach the D line, and you know Brad, high energy guys kept going, and that's kind of a beautiful thing for those that love football to watch these big guys like running around, these monsters, these big athletes, and Brad kept them going, but unfortunately, Deke and Whammy, they're just over there bumping shoulder pads all day. And I was like, they're probably not going to be very good. That was depressing. But anyway, you know, I probably the year that stands out the most would be 08, the spring practice heading into 08, because Carolina had an open quarterback situation. You know, Chris Smelly had played a lot the year before, but gotten hurt and they lost out, didn't go to a bowl. You know, Spurs kind of cranky that whole loss. You know, I just don't understand these guys, you know. And he was leading into what would be his worst team. In my opinion, the 08 team was his worst team, even though they went to the Outback Bowl for whatever reason. And Smelly, of course, goes into the spring game and just 5 picks, something like that. And say he names Tommy Beecher the starter. And I didn't think it was a bad idea at the time. Well, then unfortunately we found out, you know, Tommy's pretty good in practice, but you know, the game is a different story. And so that set off like what was, I think 08 was just a disaster of a year. It ended poorly with 3 blowout losses. It actually handed Dabo Swinney the Clemson job. You know, that was a tough year, you know, all the way around. But that spring was really, really interesting just from the standpoint of, you know, the quarterback battle, because you know, it was always Blake, and then Blake would get benched and they'd play somebody else. But, you know, and then, you know, that team too, I think that was the Captain Munnerlyn year where he had to start as a true freshman and stuff like that. So there were a lot of questions. And so it did get interesting for a little bit. But other than that, man, I mean, it just, you know, spring practice kind of, I don't know. I tell you one thing I do get out of it, and you kind of get it. You can kind of get this now with the access. Is who's walking out with the first team, who's walking out with the second team, and sometimes coaches will say we don't have a depth chart, but sometimes you get a good idea of like what's in their mind by who goes out first. So in other words, like, you know, on the first practice, Lonnie Teasley marches out all 5 vets. Now, I would guess that won't be what he goes with, but I'm not surprised he put those guys out because, hey, at the very least, if they hold everybody off, you've got 30 seasons combined of experience on the offensive line. And that'll be an older group full of fourth and fifth year guys. I do think things will change, but you know, stuff like that, like, you know, who's working behind Debo Williams at will linebacker? Will it be Pup? Is it Pup Howard? Or would Bam Martin Scott be in front? Well, no, it's Pup. You know, I thought it was kind of interesting that Desmond Umeozulu was already second team and Pup Howard already second team, rather than putting them at the bottom and making them work up. So, you know, things like that. Oh, one other interesting thing. TJ Sanders walked out there because Taka's out, you know. He walked out there with Boogie Huntley. Okay, so that kind of tells me maybe in, you know, the mind of Jimmy Lindsey right now, TJ Sanders is a little bit ahead of Nick Barrett or DeAndre Martin or whoever else. So you know, little depth chart kind of things like that you can pick up on here and there. But, you know, as far as actual football goes, it's tough. People get mad at me sometimes because I'll say this guy's doing well in practice or that guy's really making a move. And I don't think people understand sometimes when you cover practice, spring, fall, whatever, it's all in the scope of who's going to play for the Gamecocks this year. Not this guy's doing great in practice, he's going to be all SEC, because you just never know. You never know. I mean, a guy may be great and be the best the Gamecocks have, But then against Georgia, he's not all that good. So that's the thing too. People have to keep in mind about practice. But any football is good football, and we'll just have to kind of take it as it comes and consume the info and see how things stand after the spring game.
Yeah. Going back to what you said, by the way, JC, about 2008 and the craziness of that year, because we've had all those guys basically on the show, Beecher, Smelly, Garcia. That was also the year that I'll never forget. I was at the 08 Arkansas game at Willie B, and that was the game that Chris Smelly and Steven Garcia interchanged every single play. And I'll never forget, Garcia told me on the airways, he said, yeah, I went to Coach Spurrier and said, if you ever do that again, I'm transferring. So Steven was the one guy who did not give a damn and would not take the head ball coach's BS.
Yeah,
I won't do it again.
I'll never forget the 08 Kentucky game either, because I'm sitting there and Smelly's struggling, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, what's going to happen? And, Steven comes in and, it just all of a sudden complete, throws the ball to Jared Cook down the field. He hits Kenny, led the Gamecocks back to a win up there. And then he starts the next week and they almost beat LSU. That's the game Steven ran over the ref. Almost beat a good LSU team that year. And then they did beat Tennessee by 3 touchdowns, and he sent Fulmer out. That was Fulmer got fired that Monday, 3-touchdown win over Tennessee. So there were some good moments. I just thought by the time it was over, they just got destroyed by Florida. Clemson beat them. Dabo got the job, and then Iowa took them to the woodshed in the bowl game as well. Yeah,
the quarterback room was a mess that year for sure. No doubt.
Yes, and the next year, people better pray to God that Steven Garcia did not get hurt that season, because there was nobody behind him. It was Reed McCullum.
Yeah,
that was it. That season would have been probably like 4-7, 4-8, Chris.
Yeah. And
Steve Spurrier would have probably left and retired. Yeah. I think after the ending in 08, and then he throws a 4-8 up there, man. So people say, well, thank God for Steven Garcia that year and then the next, and really part of the next too. He's a guy that deserves so much more credit for what he did than what he gets, in my opinion.
For sure. What a time. And thank goodness to the football gods. Last thing, JC, before I get you out of here, on the note of spring practice, on the note of, it's just spring ball, business as usual. Of course, I'm going to ask you what you're most looking forward to and what you're keeping an eye on, because that's just what we do here. It opens up the avenue for us to talk football. I thought there were some interesting takeaways from Beamer's initial presser, some things Dowell Loggins had said yesterday, Clayton White, Pete Limbo. I thought it was interesting to hear that Vershawn Lee and Nick Gargiulo, the Yale transfer, they are battling for the starting center job. You talk about Pup Howard. I think the battles in the secondary for kind of how that's going to shake out with the depth chart's interesting. Who's sort of behind Juice Wells. I mean, I think if you really dig deep, right, you're diehards like us, comments about Lenoris Sellers. If you're diehards like us, again, you can dig deep enough to find some intriguing storylines. So anything that you're most keeping an eye on, that you're excited or intrigued to see kind of leading up to the spring game, and then how that plays out in the spring game. Is there anything specifically you're keeping an eye on over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, like Lenoris Sellers won't be the starting quarterback this year unless there's massive amounts of injuries, but he gets to campus and rolls early after they flipped him, 6'2.5", 6'3" is what he's listed, 235 pounds. This guy's built like a D end, okay? He hung a 4.4 in the 40. 4.4. Yeah. Jalen Brooks wasn't that fast, and so you start the wheels in your head start to spin, because I thought his style of play reminded me a lot of Dak Prescott, but he's much larger than Dak Prescott, right? And he's probably fat. Dak's probably like a 4.6. So wow. I mean, look, and the guy throws a nice ball. He's not just an athlete. He's a quarterback, as Beamer said. So looking forward to seeing him. Highly intrigued at, like, now that we've had the first practice and we've kind of seen who they're running out there, the nickel position, because it looks like Keenan Nelson Jr. is probably, like he did in the bowl game, gonna be the guy that they kind of – and look, Keenan – the Penn State people were all like, who's not fast enough? Well, he can play nickel in this system pretty good, I think. So looking forward to seeing how he develops. But behind him, Chris, D'Angelo Gibbs was there, ahead of K'Wan Banks. So that tells me D'Angelo is sort of, because I was told the thing about D'Angelo is got to get back into football, like football shape, being a football player. That because he was out for so long. Keep in mind this was a 5-star guy out of high school, and he was a 5-star defensive back. I mean, they tried to change the receiver at Tennessee or whatever. So I thought that was intriguing. You know, will Emory Floyd or Isaiah Norris, or take your pick, will one of them be able to push O'Donnell Fortune or Marcellus Dial? How much better will Emmett Moray and Smith be? And then the final part on defense, and offense is basically just running back and how's the offensive line going to shake out. I think the other positions I'm probably not as intrigued by. But the final part on defense, the kind of the linchpin, I think, to the defense this spring, what are they going to get out of Terrell Dawkins? Okay, now here's a guy that's been hurt off and on. He was hurt at NC State. He was misused at NC State. He was hurt here all year last year. He is 6'4", 260, and a fifth-year guy. And other schools really, really wanted him out of the portal, and we're sad they didn't get him because he does have some upside to some good things as a young player at NC State. If they can get him to a level where he's out there battling, competing, making plays as a starter, Jordan Strong comes back, and he's Jordan Strong. He'll be back in the fall.
I think we might have lost JC there. Either that or my feed is no good. Okay, I think we lost JC there just for a second. Here we go. Oh, sorry, JC. Sorry. I think I lost you there for just a second.
Oh, it's all right, bro. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm looking at. Like Terrell Dawkins to me is the linchpin to all of it in terms of the returning guys at edge, which is a thin position. But if they're going to cobble it together, I think it starts with that guy. If not, and then they don't hit on a guy in the portal, probably you're going to be looking at a lot of odd front and things like that to try to mask that very obvious deficiency. Unfortunately, there just hasn't been a whole lot of defensive ends come out of South Carolina. A lot of tackles, not a lot of ends the last couple of years.
Yeah, for sure. JC Sherbert, Inside the Gamecocks, Big Spur, every single Thursday joins us. Fantastic segment yet again, JC. I appreciate the time. Thank you guys for having me, by the way, on Inside the Gamecocks. And hey, enjoy the basketball this weekend, my friend. Obviously, the baseball, of course, too. But with March Madness, man, one of the best weekends in the calendar year for sports fans. I know you'll be watching along. Who'd you say you had? Houston, I think. Houston
the
winning.
Houston Cougars. I got Houston and Alabama, and I got Alabama, Tennessee. People are gonna get mad at me about that Tennessee pick. UCLA and Houston, and I was like, Kelvin Sampson's due. I just think he's due. So we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. JC Sherbert, I appreciate you taking the time, my friend. We'll do it again next week.
All right. Thanks, bud. See you.
Yeah, man. Take care. Great stuff from JC as always, guys. We got 5 minutes to go here on the Daily Crow. We'll keep it rolling to the end of the show. By the way, guys, check out the podcast. I dropped this morning. Forgot to remind you. Episode 767. I break down everything heading into the weekend, right? Your full breakdown of the Georgia series. Also talk my top 5 position battles to keep an eye on as we navigate through spring practice. And, like JC Sherbert said, it's spring balls kind of is what it is. You're going through fundamentals. You're installing things. I mean, there's not going to be I think a lot of crazy stories that come out or what have you, but still the boys are on the practice field. And I think what it does more so is it gives us an opportunity to talk football, right? To bring it back to the, excuse me, to the forefront, if you will. And it's always really exciting and great conversation. Again, great commentary from JC Sherbert. As always, guys, we'll take a couple more of your questions, your comments, your calls as well. It's funny, by the way, that JC Sherbert brings up John Whittle, and John Whittle does a great job for the Big Spur. But John Whittle has had TSUS blocked since, I think, May of 2017. It has been a really long time. And I'll never forget, he blocked us when we had 100 followers on Twitter. because that was when Chad Holbrook had gotten fired. And I was a little bit of a shithead, admittedly. I was because I was trying to nudge my way in, right, and make a name for myself in the Gamecock space. And so we had Forrest Kumis, former Gamecocks baseball player, on the podcast. And he had told us straight up, he had told our audience straight up on the show, he said, hey, my dad knows an SEC umpire, Kevin O'Sullivan to South Carolina. It is a done deal, right? And John Whittle had thrown something up on Twitter. Hey, check this out. Who's going to be the next head baseball coach? And it was a paid link. It was a paid link. You had to pay, be a subscriber. And I fully support, right, those websites. And I think they do a great job of the way they've monetized. I mean, it's a great business model. But I basically said something. I was like, I quote tweeted it and said, or you could listen to the latest episode of the Spurs Up Show or listen to the latest episode of our podcast, and you could find out this information for free. Well, John Whittle did not like that too much. He blocked not only TSUS, but also my personal account. So, John Whittle, if you're somehow hearing this, my friend, let's let bygones be bygones. You do great work. I apologize. I was a little bit of a shithead back in the day. So, anyways, that's the story by why John Whittle blocked TSUS. So, anyways, guys, we got the pups in studio. It's a beautiful day out. Feels good to be good. Basketball's on the tube. We got golf on the tube. SEC baseball starts tonight as well. SEC baseball starts tonight as well, guys. Be sure to tune into it. And the Gamecocks taking on Georgia. Supposed to be tomorrow. We shall see, what the weather decides to do. By the way, Bruin Nation. Bruin Nation. How about JC Sherbert heaping a massive amounts of praise on your guy Lenora Sellers. So, guys, we hit 2:00. We'll go ahead and end it. Appreciate you all tuning in. Be sure, again, to check out March Madness. Check out the podcast. Drop today. iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. And if you want to go back and listen to this show in case you missed anything, you can do so on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts. Guys, we'll be live, of course, tomorrow, noon to 2, as normal. Be sure to tune in as we head into the weekend of SEC baseball. Until then, appreciate you all. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your Thursday, and we will talk to you all tomorrow.